Sun Jians Advance. Around the same time that Cao Cao tried to rally the coalition against its enemy Dong Zhuo and fought at the Battle of Shanyang, Sun Jian in the south also stood out above the rest in his attempts to destroy the traitor. When he first heard of the coalition being formed, he sighed and said, "Had Lord Zhang heeded my words in former times, the imperial court would not now be experiencing this difficulty." Sun Jian raised loyal soldiers and headed north. He encountered the inspector of Jing province, Wang Rui, who he had met years before during business against bandits. Wang Rui considered Sun Jian to be a military man who was not suitable for civil administration, and so the two did not see eye to eye. Wang also held a grudge against the administrator of Wuling, Tao Yin, and planned to kill him, so Tao forged a letter which convinced Sun Jian to arrest and punish Wang Rui. Although it must have seemed like an odd request by the government, which was being controlled by Dong Zhuo, Sun Jian must have ignored its dubious nature so he could settle a grudge and at the same time annex Wang Rui's troops. When he learnt that he had no more options, he drank melted gold to commit suicide, whereafter Sun Jian's forces had expanded several tens of thousands. Sun Jian carried on to Nanyang Commandery, where he asked for provisions from its Grand Administrator Zhangzi, but he was advised against it. There are two separate accounts of their interaction, but both end with Zhangzi's downfall and Sun Jian's forces being further bolstered. He arrived at Luoyang with 20 to 30,000 men, where he became subordinate to Yuan Shu. He was awarded with the rank of general who quells bandits, and made inspector of Yu province under Yuan's authority. With the death of Zhangzi, Yuan Shu assumed the position of Grand Administrator of Nanyang and began occupation of the land. He made Sun Jian the vanguard of the army, so he began to drill the troops at Luoyang. At this time, Sun had command over the soldiers of Jing and Yu province. As Dong Zhuo had ordered his men to plunder and take prisoners from the surrounding regions, some tens of thousands of men were on their way to attack Luoyang. They arrived when Sun Jian's men were having a drinking party at the eastern city gate. Sun did not stir upon hearing the news. Instead, he calmly continued to pass his wine around whilst his troops gathered into formation. The attacking force was so impressed with the strict discipline of Sun Jian's troops that they gave up on their attack and retreated. Some time later, Sun Jian marched his troops north to Liangdong to set up a new camp, but he met with Zhu Rong's army who outnumbered him greatly. They quickly surrounded Sun Jian's forces, but he managed to break through the encirclement of several dozen of his best horsemen. The red scarf or cap that he wore made him easy to identify, so Sun Jian gave it to his close aide Zhu Mao, who then distracted the enemy forces whilst his master escaped down a side road. Zhu Mao managed to outrun his pursuers, but he became stranded and distressed. He was able to hang the scarf on a half-burnt pillar, then hid in some tall nearby grass. His enemies soon arrived, surrounded the pillar, and then cautiously approached it. When they realized they had been fooled, they gave up on the pursuit and quickly retreated. Whilst Zhu Mao found freedom, others were less fortunate. Li Min was captured and boiled alive, as were many others, who were bound with cloth and killed by having boiling lard poured over them. Sun Jian gathered his forces and regrouped at Yang Ren, but there wasn't much time to rest, as Dong Zhuo sent another force to attack him. 5,000 men led by Lu Bu, Hua Xiong, and Hu Zhen arrived, but they lacked unity and could not work well together. Lu Bu, who was in charge of the cavalry, quarrelled with Hu Zhen, and so they were not on good terms. This led to a trickle-down effect onto the troops under their command, which led to disorder within their ranks. Lu Bu tricked Hu Zhen. He convinced him that Sun Jian had already left his position and that they had to force march in order to catch him, which was not true. They advanced at night time, only to reach a heavily fortified city. Fatigued, starving, and thirsty, they took off their armour and began to rest. Lu Bu soon arrived and then panicked them by crying out that the enemy was coming, which then caused them to rush about, abandon their armour, and leave their horses. Sun Jian's disciplined troops engaged the frantic enemy, which made them begin to retreat. The unorganised manner in which they fled led to them being completely routed, where Hua Xiong was captured and promptly executed by Sun. Sun Jian pressed on towards Luoyang despite his enemies' attempts to stop him. Yuan Shu was warned that if Sun Jian obtains Luoyang, it would be repeating the cycle of oppression. This would be like using a tiger to eliminate a wolf. This made Yuan Shu doubtful, so he ordered for no more supplies to be sent to the front line, which would soon put a stop to the aptly nicknamed Tiger of Jiangdong. This hindrance forced Sun Jian to race across 30 miles on horseback through the night in order to speak with Yuan Shu in person. I put myself in danger during battle with the primary purpose to eliminate the traitor for this country, and secondly to avenge the death of your kinsman. yet you believed slanderous talks and suspect me. An alternate version of what Sun Jian said: I have performed great service and have nearly triumphed, yet my military provisions have not continued. For this the men of Wu rose up, but now they sigh and weep west of the river, and the resolve of those who volunteered has also begun to waver as victory slips out of our reach. I've come here not thinking of myself. Above, it is to punish traitors on behalf of the state. Below, General, is to remedy your family's personal feud. I do not have any blood feud with Dong Zhuo, yet General, you accept slanderous words and dislike and suspect me. These words put Yuan Shu in his place of shame, and he immediately ordered the food supply to be delivered. Sun Jian then pressed on towards Luoyang despite his allies' attempts to stop him. During the months of travel towards the city, Dong Zhuo began to fear Sun Jian. To remedy this, he sent Li Jue as an emissary to arrange an alliance between the two clans. When the offer of marriage was proposed to Sun Jian, the promise of governorship titles was also promised for his sons. Sun answered, Dong Zhuo opposes heaven and defies the law. Until I have killed you and all of your clan and show your heads to the 4 seas, I shall not be able to die in peace. How can I ally with you? The meeting ended there, and despite the threats, Li Jue was allowed to leave unscathed. Sun Jian continued to Dagu Pass, where one source claims he witnessed Luoyang in flames when he was around 25 miles from the city. Dong Zhuo himself came out and did battle with Sun Jian amongst the various mausoleums of the past emperors. Dong Zhuo was defeated and fled to Mianshu. Then Sun Jian continued forward and entered the city through Xuanyang Gate, where he met and defeated Lu Bu's forces as well. Sun Jian's victories were quite hollow, as the city's people had already been pillaged, the graves of past emperors had already been plundered, and Dong Zhuo set fire to anything he couldn't take with him. The city was devoid of life, with no signs of habitation. Sun Jian wept when he saw the desolation, and proceeded to sweep up the ruined ancestral temples and halls. He resealed the tombs that had been desecrated, and also offered a sacrifice of his own to the past emperors. When Dong Zhuo fled west, he spoke to his men about Sun Jian. The army from the east of the passes has been repeatedly defeated. All are in awe of me, and none have any ability. Except for Sun Jian, the little fool, he is a considerably capable and useful man. Dong Zhuo also highlighted their time during the Liang province rebellion, where Zhu Shen was unable to use either of them successfully. Dong claimed that he and Sun Jian see things all the same, and that he will certainly be a problem. He also claimed that if he managed to kill the 2 Yuans, Liu Biao and Sun Jian, then the whole empire would submit and obey him. In Sun Jian's biography, it's claimed that he camped his forces south of the city near a well, which the troops drew their water from. At dawn, a rainbow burst from the well, so the army became alarmed, bewildered, and nobody dared to drink from it. When a man was ordered in to investigate, he uncovered the Great Han Seal of the state, the Imperial Seal. The eunuchs had thrown the Imperial Seal into the well back when they rebelled, when Dong Zhuo first entered Luoyang. The miraculous event leading up to its rediscovery is not particularly credible. It's more plausible that Sun Jian discovered the seal when clearing up the tombs. When Yuan Shu learned of the seal's discovery, he held Sun Jian's wife hostage as a way to coerce him into handing it over. The campaign against Dong Zhuo wouldn't go any further than this, as its original noble intentions soon dissipated. To improve their own power bases, the regional lords turned to infighting and seizing territories. Yuan Shu made plans to usurp the imperial throne, and so to retaliate, Yuan Shao tried to convince Liu Yu to become emperor, and so their feud deepened. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.